What is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more. Baby, don't hurt me no more. What is love?
Hey, it's Soleil in this episode 479 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about whether Filter's op return is drama and fear mongering or whether there are some first principles arguments for it and whether it's core or not is the logical choice. Before I get into that, though, I should probably just give my quick opinion on the tit for tat kind of threats of violence around political arguments. And there's some people saying, hey, if you keep this up, we're going to have civil war. And I think that's not necessarily a wise or responsible position to take. I'm not saying people shouldn't defend themselves, but it reminds me a little bit of when kids are on the playground and you see two kids maybe getting ready to fight, and maybe one's wearing a blue shirt and the other one's wearing a red shirt. And each one is waiting for the other one to throw the first punch so that they can be justified in reacting. And then it's some asshole from the crowd that pushes one of them into the other one. And then the fight starts. So I think people should be very wary that there aren't just two sides to this issue. There is a third party, and that party will do anything it can in order to get you to fight someone else and be distracted from, whatever their true goal is. So maybe try to imagine what the people, maybe pulling some strings or lurking in the background might have to benefit from people squabbling over ideological differences. And it's almost kind of like, you draw a line in the sand and you say, if you step over the line, then we're going to fight. Well, now you're locked into it if they do step over the line. But what if someone pushes them over the line? They're just standing there and they weren't going to move over the line, but now you've locked yourself into a position. You've basically stated what you were going to do, and then if someone outside of that situation creates the environment that you said you would act upon, then you can basically allow yourself to be manipulated. So I think that's all I got to say about that. What's up, Howard? I don't see the comments on my display. I don't know if they're actually shown in the window or not. Whatever. Okay, so filters. I've heard some people just saying, "Oh, you're resorting to fear mongering, trying to get people to run knots, or it's the whole thing is just drama." And I've even seen some people saying, "Oh, I don't know who's going to win, so I'm just going to stand on the sidelines and sit this one out," which is, I can't think of a less masculine position than to just watch the race and see who wins and then go join this side of the winter. Um, Pascal's wager. I'm not even a fan of Pascal's wager with respect to religion itself. However, the basic theory is that if you have a binary choice and one of those w- has a range of outcomes that could be catastrophic, but its range of outcomes on the positive side are mild, and the other range of outcome, if you choose the other decision, the negative range of outcomes is very mild, then it makes sense to choose the not risky outcome. So let's think about this for a second. Bitcoin knots is saying that we should make a very significant change. So if you like what Bitcoin has been doing for the last frickin' 5 years, going up 1,000%, and filters have been here the whole time, um, then blowing open the filters is a dramatic change to Bitcoin. So what are the negative potentials for what Core is describing? Well, um, CSAM could become rampant, which would be a devastating outcome, potentially just for its financial case, like the number go up, but also if you have a shred of ethics or morality. Um, if I wanted to steelman the opposing argument to that a little bit, I will say this, that it's usually, you know, when they want to restrict someone's rights, they usually say, "Oh, do it for the children," right? Every type of freedom that someone sacrifices, they usually say, "You do it for the children." So I get that, but this is not hypothetical. We already have a use case, um, and people have slipped questionable material on Bitcoin's blockchain, even with the small limits, even with the tiny limits. The the good part is that, from what I understand, they're not contiguous. Like, you just can't click it and say, "Oh, here, let me open up this questionable material." It's been segmented. It's kind of like you'd have to cut and paste and try to put this stuff back together to actually make it a viewable item. But if you blow open the size like 100x or something ridiculous, um, I mean, you'd be able to just stick like MP4s on there. So, plenty of rope to hang ourselves if we allow this change. And where I was going with that is, it's not hypothetical. It's guaranteed to happen because we saw it happen with BSV. They made a similar change, and like, didn't take very long for CSAM to get on the chain. So uh, to sum it up, if there is some small benefit to what Core 30 is proposing, it pales in comparison to the negative uh, consequences that could come from it. And if you run 30, or excuse me, if you run knots, it's just what we've been getting with Bitcoin. It's just keeping the filters. Like, you're getting all of the good stuff from Core, and the only thing that's being cut out is this one significant threat. So if you're just looking at this from a logical perspective, No emotional drama. People are being accused of clickbait and trying to, Bitcoin influencers and all that stuff. Throw all that out the window. First principles. Does it make logical sense to run core? No, it does not. Very little benefit, huge risk. Does it make sense to run knots? Very little risk, and maybe there's no huge benefit to just keeping on what we've been doing. It whatever bloat that we've had in the blockchain, whatever spam has gotten through in the blockchain. Okay, maybe that's just status quo, but that's just what we've got already now anyway. Um, I think some of the critics say, well, instead of focusing on the filters, we actually need an actual fix for the taproot and SegWit bugs. Well, no shit, but that doesn't mean we have to make it worse before it gets better. Um, the other thing that I will say, because I was in the medical field, is the principle of first do no harm. And I think that fits here very nicely as well. Because with knots, we can say, okay, worst case scenario is we just keep the same problems that we've had with no meaningful improvement, but we are not doing any additional harm by blowing open the frickin' filter policy and just saying, okay, well, let's just see what'll happen if we do that. Um, and let's just think for a minute. So we know that Bitcoin is imposing the free market on the world and is turning the fiat parasitic extraction system that has existed for thousands of years upside down. So, from first principles, we know that the fiat system is not going to go down without a fight. So, they will continue to attack Bitcoin. So, if we know there's a 100% chance that they will attack Bitcoin, how will they attack it? Clearly, infiltrating or infiltrating core directly or just through kind of a lax a transition from like the OG Bitcoiner devs that understand what Bitcoin and what financial transactions are supposed to be, or just kind of letting that trend in the direction of change for the sake of change, right? A developer wants to develop something and make something cool happen, but it's up to people who want to preserve Bitcoin as a pristine financial transaction to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I think that's most of my thoughts on that one. What's up, Howard? Let's see, Magic Pete. Strive put credit spreads are getting insane premiums, in some cases more than the spread. Good lord. Let's see, the January 755 spread showing 270 on Robinhood. Is this like free money as long as ASC is above 5? It's like a free cash loan, and maybe you get to keep some of it or all of Strive rips, right? That that sounds like free money because I got uh yeah, we got to check this out. But so let's see if it really is or if there's some risk here. January, you said? Okay. That's a little bit farther out than I normally like to go anyway, but let's do, you're saying put credit spread? So we're gonna sell the 7.5 and buy the 5. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if you're gonna be able to get this. If you can get this filled, That would be pretty cool. But you can see how the bid ask spread is pretty wide. I don't know if you'd really be able to get filled. Yeah, see, it says low fill likelihood for 275. So what about 250? 250 sounds um, is a medium fill likelihood, which is kind of crazy because the max loss here would is basically yeah, look, max profit 250, max loss 0. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter whatsoever as far as where the where the strive price would be. If you get filled at 250, it should be theoretically impossible to lose money because your max loss is the width of the strikes, which I'm sure as you and I'm sure you understand it, but I think I'm talking to anybody who doesn't understand what put credit spreads or spreads and how they work in general. So your max loss would be the 250 subtracted by however much you got paid. And normally, a put credit spread like this, maybe you get paid $1 or something. I mean, that would be a lot. And then your max loss would be the 250 minus the 100. So your max loss would be a 150. But if you get paid the full amount, your theoretical max loss would be 0. And if you got paid more than 250, your max loss should be negative. But yeah, I think it would be kind of hard to get paid more than that. If you could get a fill here, I mean, more power to you. I should just try, shouldn't I? Okay, well, let's game theory how this would work. So, January, the price would either be above 750, which would mean that the put you bought would expire worthless, but you'd get to keep the entirety of the put that you sold. So if you got a fill for 275, then you'd get to keep the entire 275 bucks. The other thing that could happen would be that the price is below $5. In that case, you'd still get to keep this $6, but you'd lose um, the entire 325 that you paid. And the oh, sorry, and the let's see, you're selling the 7.5. And so if we did finish at 5, so you would be assigned potentially 100 shares at 750 and you'd lose $250 worth of value here. But you'd get to keep the $6 that you got paid, but you'd lose 250 on the put being that you sold being upside down, 250 bucks, plus the 325 that you had to pay out. So you'd lose 325 plus 250, which would be 575, but you got paid 6. So even in the losing position where the put that you sold gets wrecked and you just barely break even on the put that you bought, you'd still make $25. And that would continue no matter how far Strive fell. So even if Strive fell to $1 a share, at that point, the put that you sold would be getting wrecked. So from 750 down to 1 would be like 650 bucks. However, the put that you bought would start printing and you'd make, 400 bucks if the price fell to $1 a share. So you'd make 4, but you paid 325. but you would have gotten paid 6 here. So it's now what could happen to screw this up? Since a credit spread involves one that you bought and one that you sold, so the put that you buy here is controlled by you. So you don't have to exercise this unless you want to. But what would happen if well before January 16th, like let's just say next week, Strive crashes to $1 a share? If the person who's holding that 7.5 put decides that they don't want to wait until January 16th to see if the price reverses, maybe they want to take their win now. I'm not sure it would be a good idea for them to do it because they would lose however much extrinsic value is in this option. But if they decided they wanted to exercise on you early, they could force you to buy their Strive shares that are only worth $1. They could make you pay $7.50 for them. If you have the cash, right, then you're welcome to just go ahead and pay it. And then your $5 put should print. So you should be able to turn around and sell this to offset the losses. However, the beauty of buying a put is that, if this goes down to $1, then you're going to make $400. But if you're already paying $325 for it, then your max profit really is the 4 minus the $325. So this is a very exorbitant price to pay for this put. It's not really going to offset your losses like it normally would. Because the max profit on buying a $5 put and paying $325 for it is $1.75, and the price of Strive would have to go to 0 in order to collect that much money. All right, well, I think I got a little distracted. So, price goes to $1. The person you sold the put to exercises. Now you just paid $750 for a stock that's only worth $1, so you're out $650, which kind of doesn't matter because you got paid $6 to begin with. So you're really only down $50. And then, okay, you print $400 with the $5 put, but you paid $325 for it. So you really only printed $75, which I guess works out because you lost 50 up here. The 650 minus 600, that was your $50 loss. And then you made $75 here. You made 400, but you paid 325 for it. So you still kind of end up on the good side. But that's at expiration. If this happens early and like next week, right? You're out to $600, 650, and you're holding this $5 put. But since there's going to be a bunch of extrinsic value left in this, if you exercise it, then you're losing all of the extrinsic value. So there's a little bit of an early exercise risk with a credit spread that, even though it's a defined risk trade, that's only like technically at expiration if both legs are closed at the same time. Right? If on January 16th, the person you sold the put to exercises, well, there's no extrinsic value left with a day left. 24 hours of extrinsic value is not a big deal. But if they decide to exercise on you 3 months early, if you don't have the cash to just accept the 100 shares and you're forced to exercise your put, you could be also forced to sacrifice all of that extrinsic value, and this could end up turning into a losing position. My dad actually texted me today, and the $5 covered calls that we sold, he got exercised early already, and it's like a day or two early. So he bought a synthetic position like the one that I had, sold a covered call against it, and they exercised his covered call, forced him to buy, or excuse me, forced him to sell 100 shares. So I think they made him buy the 100 shares and then they got called away. I gotta do a screen share with him to find out exactly, but I'm just guessing that that's what happened. Unless, let's see, we bought a call and sold a put. Yeah, they wouldn't have exercised the sell put at 5. That wouldn't make any sense. So that's the only thing that I can think of, is that the covered call that we sold at the $5 strike for this for tomorrow, they went ahead and exercised that. And since he didn't actually own the shares and he had buying power, I'm guessing Robinhood forced him to buy the 100 shares and then deliver those to the person that we sold the covered call against. So in order for him to compensate for that, he would probably have to turn around and sell his synthetic position, close that synthetic position, which I don't know based on today's prices whether that would actually make him some money or lose him some money. So, not sure if that made any sense or not, but the point is, yes, spreads are supposed to be defined risk trades, but depending on the timing, if the buyer of one of your legs, the one that you don't control, exercises early, it can have an adverse effect on the trade. And if you don't have buying power to deal with it, you could end up losing money on a winning defined risk trade. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, theoretically, if your max loss is 250 and you get paid 275, that that should be a guaranteed winner. But but yes, there are hidden risks of defined risk trades that you should be aware of. Buffalo says Schwab won't let me place an order where the credit is equal to or larger than the spread. That just kind of makes common sense. Feels like the risk is being put the shares at expiration and not executing your long put, but otherwise I'm struggling not to just do as much as I can, as close to that 240-ish. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty big asymmetric bet. What's up, Buddha? Reloaded some ASST 750s for 116. What's up, Forrest? Core needs to defend why they want to remove something that has been a part of the node implementation for 11 years. Instead, knots and filters are on the back foot for some reason. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no critical, it's not like this is a hot fix. Like, oh shit, we realized some critical bug in the code and we just have to patch it immediately. Like, and that's kind of one thing that I forgot to mention with, what would a fiat attack look like? Well, it would look like something that didn't need to happen, that is contentious. A large part of the network doesn't want it to happen. There's a horrible outcome within the range of outcomes for doing it, and very little benefit. Like, that's exactly what it would look like, and that's exactly what Core is proposing that we do. So My little conspiracy theory brain started imagining, um, you know, shitcoins are probably getting tired of being shitcoins, right? They would love nothing more than for Bitcoin to be a shitcoin too. They're never going to flip Bitcoin if Bitcoin stays pristine, sovereign money. And your shitcoin is never going to be, you can't turn it into something good. So the only way that you can win and flip Bitcoin is to ruin Bitcoin. If you can turn Bitcoin into just another shitcoin, well, now maybe Ethereum can flip Bitcoin, or maybe um, so Caspa is the one that kind of came to mind too, because it's the Caspa folks that always seem to drop into a thread that say, um, well, Bitcoin will never be scalable, and by the way, here's this shitcoin that solved the trilemma problem. It's it's decentralized, secure, and scalable, all on the base layer. That sounds a little bit too good to be true to me, and I don't pay it any more attention than I pay any any of the other shit coins. And I think Saifedean said it best on Lex Friedman's podcast when Lex said, "Well, shouldn't you be open minded to Ethereum and its use case and the tech and this and that and the other?" And Safe's like, "Are you open minded to you know every piece of spam that you get in your email? Like, do you are you open minded to you know Egyptian, I'm sorry, not Egyptian, Ethiopian Prince Haile Selassie. He needs to sneak uh, $10 million out of the country, and he needs your fucking help to do it. Like, am I responding to those emails? No, because there are limits to being open minded. If I was open minded to everything that every person on this planet wanted me to, entertain, I would never have time to do anything that I wanted to do. So no, I am not interested in hearing about the use case of whatever shitcoin. Like, let me know when they flip Bitcoin's market cap, and maybe I'll take a position in your shitcoin. But until that happens, it's all it's all just kind of wasting my time. So yeah, is it does it make sense that the if the only way that you can win any of these um, shitcoin projects is to bring Bitcoin down to your level, then destroying node sovereignty seems like the obvious attack vector. So I don't think this is drama. I don't think it's fear mongering. I think it has a very legitimate first principles use case, and still waiting for any evidence to the contrary. Buddha says took 10% of the profits yesterday, bought the 116, 15, and 20 call spread. Oh, you bought the 15 and 20. That's interesting. Absolutely, Magic Pete. Selling the puts is still tripping me out. Yeah, man. Um, Even like the ones that I normally like to do at 45 days are pretty freaking good. Reminds me of Pulp Fiction. Like, I'm not sure if it's $5 milkshake's worth $5, but it's pretty fucking good. Um, yeah, I mean, like, oh god, selling the five for 350, 45 days out. That's, oh my god. So 10%. of $5 would be 50 cents. So this is 7 times that. That's like a 70% premium. The break even is $1.50. Now, I think it was Treasury that keeps warning me about the pipe investors. Okay, so I did ask this question. Approved. Pipe and issuing common stock $1.35 a share, effective August 25th. Anyway, I'm pretty sure Treasury was saying that the pipe investors can sell next week, so maybe just wait for that to see if they dump the price. Apparently, Grok doesn't have an answer for me. Sold without the 1-year rule, 144 holding period. Oh, no exact date is announced, but clearances typically occur with days to weeks after approval. So we just approved it on the 4th. Oh, approved it on the 9th. Strive shareholders approved it earlier on the 4th. So this could happen anytime. The process ongoing and the pipe is set to close concurrently with the merger. Okay. So it looks like pipe investors should be able to dump their shares on the market at any time. So just keep that in mind. That could, if half of the gains get dumped, oh my God, I was trading at 50 cents. Anyway, so we bottomed at $3 in August. And so from 3 to 9 is if we dump half of that 9 down to 450, you're looking at all of the $5 strikes being underwater. So just keep in mind that the people paying extraordinary prices for these puts are paying them for a reason. It might be because they're suspecting a metric shit ton of profit taking very soon. Thanks, Forrest. Good theory on the shitcoin stuff. Yeah, I think the way to think about some of this stuff is like SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the weaknesses. What are the weaknesses of Bitcoin? I'm kind of like in the ossify camp, but I mean I do allow that there will be bugs that need to be fixed, and maybe there will be some tweaks that need to happen, but they should be very measured and deliberate. And I think about it this way too. So let's just think about, what are your chances of getting run over by a car while crossing the street if you don't cross the street? Well, it's 0. I mean, somebody could drive a car through your house or whatever, but you're not going to get run over crossing the street if you don't cross the street. So the chance of that event happening probabilistically is 0. The increase in your chances of getting run over by a car crossing the street increase infinitely by just doing it once, right? If you want to know what your increase is, you take the new percent chance. Let's just say there's a 10% chance you get run over, and you subtract 0, which was the previous chance, and then you divide by the previous chance. So you're going to take 10 minus 0 and divide by 0. Well, you can't divide by 0. That gives you infinity. So you have infinitely increased your likelihood of getting run over by going from 0 to any number. It doesn't matter if it's 5%, 3%, 1%, 99%. You have infinitely increased your chances of an adverse event by making it greater than 0. And that's what every single code upgrade is. If we don't make a change, there's a 0% chance that a change will fuck us over. However, even the tiniest little change has an infinitely greater chance of having unintended consequences than doing nothing. And I'm not saying that means we should never do anything. Reminds me of freaking Finding Nemo. You know, if you never let him do anything, or if you never let anything happen to him, then nothing will ever happen to him. So I'm not saying we should never let anything happen to Bitcoin. Like we've got to patch the damn thing, right? That's just inevitable. However, if you're going to increase your chances of an adverse event by infinity, you might want to be cautious about those changes. And a change this big is absolutely insane to attempt, especially when we have 100% use case scenario with BSV on what will happen if we make this change. So it's not even like, oh, if we do this, maybe something will happen. It's like, no, we know exactly what can and will happen if we make this change. So I couldn't resist going off on another tangent. Crabs in the bucket theory. Exactly. If you can't beat them, join them. If you can't beat them, make them join you. Yeah, that's how that works. Buddha says, I guess, but there seems to be consensus on the pipe investors dipping, which is reflected with the high put premium. Also, I wouldn't mind the shares at 5 to 250. Yeah, exactly. And that's another good point, is that if you don't care that you get assigned the damn shares, absolutely selling a put is the way to go. You get the premium, and if the price dumps and you believe, in the Bitcoin treasury company long term's potential, then fucking A. Have at it. That goes for any stock. Even the TradFi bullshit. Don't mind owning it, sell a put, get paid. The price falls, you get a discount at the strike you selected. You're the proud owner of the shares at the price you wanted. It's a great way to get a favorable entry position. All right. I think I should probably look at the new shiny toy that we have to play with, which are the pref options. I guess it was inevitable for Strife and Stride, but Stretch is kind of comical to me. But let's just check. Okay, first of all, anytime I go to an option and I only see monthlies, that's red flag already, automatically. It's not liquid enough to have weeklies. That's a liquidity red flag to me. So let's just open up. Let's see what we can get 8 days from now. If I wanted to sell a put at the 110, bid ask spread is 20 to 60. It's kind of bad. There's no bid below 105. I don't put the volume and open interest. Maybe I should. On Tasty Trade, they're usually available on, they're always available on Robinhood, but you can't trade these on Robinhood. But I suspect that the volume and open interest is not great. They're still building liquidity in the underlying stock itself. So a new options ticker like this is generally not going to have the greatest liquidity. So this is a red flag. If I bought 100 shares and I wanted to sell a covered call, again, if I wanted to sell the 115 or the 120, I've got a bunch of asks, but I have zero fucking bids over here. Would I be able to get a fill? Probably. But it's still kind of a pain in the ass. Um, and the whole point of owning STRF is for the dividends. So I don't even really like selling puts on dividend stocks to begin with because you're not getting any of the dividends. I get the idea of buying 100 shares, you're going to get the dividends, and then you can sell a covered call while you collect dividends. I can at least get behind that to a certain extent. Um, but liquidity is not good. If this gets more mature, that would make a little bit of sense. But let's just imagine that we could get a fill at the mid price here, right? We could sell the 120 for a week from now for like 25 bucks, 25 cents times 100. If I could get a fill at 25, would that make any sense? 1% of the share price would be $1.12, and 25 cents would be like a quarter of that. So getting paid a quarter of a percent in 1 week and potentially getting called away at 120, that would be like 8% call away value. I mean, I guess you could squeeze a little bit of premiums out of that while you're just hodling and collecting dividends, but it's not blowing my skirt up. But anyway, let's go out to 36. That's as close as we can get to 45 days right now. You could sell the 110, which would be like, okay, if the price goes under 110 and you're forced to buy these, at least there are some bids here. So you could get paid somewhere in here. What's halfway? Like 250-ish, 260. That's actually not bad because that would knock your break even down to like 108. No, no, no. That's not great because it's going to take 36. You have to wait a month and a half for that. So that 1%, 1 to 1.5% premium is split up over 5 weeks. So that's like a quarter of a, yeah, and that ends up being like a quarter of a percent a week again, with only a $2 discount if the price falls. So yeah, I can't really get with this, and I can't even entertain credit spreads because there's no market for any of these. So if I wanted to like, sell the 105 and buy the 100, like the bid ask spread is anywhere from a $2 credit to a $1.45 debit. This is the liquidity on these are just terrible. So even if any of these things made sense, the bid ask spreads are too risky. I'm assuming Stride is going to be the same. So 8 days away. I mean, at least there's a bid here at the 80. So the mid price is going to be somewhere between 15 cents and 330. This is pretty bad. Um, Buying 100 shares of Stride and then trying to sell. Yeah, there's no bids here either. This is a one-sided market. So that's all pretty bad. But this is the most interesting one. It just seems kind of ridiculous. If you're going to be pegging a stock price at 100 and you really don't think it should be moving anywhere between like 99 and 101, why is there even an options market here? But at the same time, this is almost the most intriguing one. This is as close to a guaranteed play as you can possibly imagine. Like what market forces would it take for stretch to go below 95 and strategy not do something about it? Like, aren't they mandated to try to pump it to back to 100? Let's say you got paid the mid price of $40, 40 cents at the 95 strike. That's only about a 0.5% in premium. But if the price dropped to 95 and you were assigned, I mean, this is almost as close to a guaranteed buy the fucking dip moment as you can imagine, because they're just going to increase the interest paid on this damn thing to pump the price back up above your break even and push it closer to 100. And I guess if they overcompensated and they pushed stretches price to like 105, then they're just going to dump the interest rate and crash. Well, I shouldn't call it crash, but correct the price back down to 100. So, I mean, I guess selling puts while the price is under 100 makes sense. And then if the price goes to 101, you could sell covered calls to knock it back down. Or hell, I guess you could put a strangle and you could sell. This would be like the lowest risk play to sell a put at 95 and sell a call at 105, assuming that strategy will never let it get below 95 or above 105. So this one is the most intriguing to me, but it also just doesn't make any sense at all. That that anyone who's taking the other side of this bet, who's who's buying, who the fuck is buying the 105 call for 40? That means that you think the price of STRC is going up to 105.40. How the hell would that ever happen? I don't get it. I know I'm supposed to be the one explaining these things, but does strike have options too? No. Okay. Um, I know we were talking about free money before, but like, how is how is selling a put below the pegged price not free money? Or how is selling a covered call above, at 105 not free money? I guess I really got to say the not financial advice thing. Um, because there's, in the stock market, there's always a risk of something weird happening that you never thought could happen. And honestly, I didn't think it would take this long for STRC to get to 100. I thought they would be having a hard time keeping it under 100. That was my first thought, is that holy shit, this is going to go straight to 100 and they're going to have to keep lowering interest rates to keep it under 100. And that is not what happened at all. They've had to actually increase the interest rate to try to keep this pumped. And I don't know if that has to do with the underlying share price kind of struggling, or it's because Bitcoin is just kind of hanging around and people are just not sure if Bitcoin bull market is over. Maybe that's all we're going to get. I don't know what the hesitancy is on STRC getting to 100. This just seems like a free 3%. Like buying this at a 90, buying this below 100 just seems like free money. Now, of course, I haven't bought any of it because I'm a degen that's irresponsibly long the underlying MSTR, but yeah, I don't really get why the preferreds need an options market, but whatever. Buddha says, "Ooh, baby, it's still liquid, but it feels you can name your price on the sell side and see if you get filled." You still talking about Strive? Or are we switching over to the preferreds? No real size available. Maybe snipe a contract or two. Oh, illiquid, you meant. Magic Pete, forget preferred options. Strategy needs to start marketing STRC to the masses. Yeah, man. I couldn't even convince my own mother to buy STRC. She's got it in some kind of cash investment and earning some tiny. I asked my dad, I was like, is it even earning enough interest to overcome the fucking management fee? And I think it is, but like it's kind of sad. We don't work in single digit percents anymore. No, no, I can't be bothered. All right. So I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. So let me just check. I don't think there's any I think there's anything I need to do. MSTR is down a little bit, but not enough that I need to roll. I've only had these contracts on for 2 days, so I'm just gonna call it that there's nothing I need to do in any of these accounts. CLSK $10 put. I'll just wait and see what happens tomorrow. Could expire worthless, so maybe I'll roll this. Well, actually, that's kind of good news because CLSK was trading under 10 yesterday, I believe. It was in the nines, so that's good news. My covered calls actually might get called away, so maybe I'll just let these shares get called away tomorrow, and I'll have a bunch of buying power to rotate back into some more Riot and CLSK. Again, I took off the synthetic portion, I took off the long call of the synthetic portion of this and closed it along with my covered call in Strive. So I'm just left with the put that I sold, and it's super weird because the value of this should have went down as Strive's price pumped, but it actually would have cost me more to close it than when I sold it for a month ago. So definitely weird. It's got to be the pipe investors, the looming over this ticker. Yeah, I got about $400 in buying power, so nothing much to play with. I guess I could add some debit spreads if I wanted, or dollar cost average into this 910. Yeah, ain't nothing to do here. Oh, maybe there's something to do with Tesla. Actually, Tesla's up again, right? So this is more up, more uppage. Man. So I'm still really can you know what? Can you short stock in an IRA? Let me just reload this damn thing. I doubt it, but let's see. GM. I kind of figured GM is the worst run American car company. Hmm. Account is not approved for selling short. Yeah, I guess you can't short in an IRA, or not in this type of IRA. But let's go back to my main account. So I spent some time with Grok on this. So this would increase my cash balance by 5,800, but it would only reduce my buying power. So I don't really understand these margin calculations. Um, I'm using margin, so I technically have $0. I have negative dollars, right? I have negative cash. But Tasty Trade's telling me that they don't mind that I have no money. They're like, okay, you're not really that in danger of getting wrecked, even though I have negative money. Like, you're trading safely enough, even though 100% of my positions. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to switch back to this one. Even though 100% of my position is in strategy, like I have like 100% concentration risk. But Taster Trade is telling me we don't care. You can spend another 300 grand even though you have negative cash balance. And if you wanted to short GM, they are willing to increase my cash balance. No, what am I doing? They are willing to increase my cash balance by almost 6 grand, but only steal 900 bucks out of my buying power. Grok said something along the lines of too that since GM and Tesla are in the same sector and I'm long one and short the other, they actually might give me a discount on the buying power, because if something happens that's good for the car sector, even though I'm losing money on one, I'd have to be, well, yeah, I would be losing on one and gaining on the other. So it's kind of being hedged. I don't really know if that would happen. I don't think I can add a short and a long of a different stock in a single trade. But and let me just be clear. So when I talk about the Tasty Trade strategy of selling options at 45 DTE or selling my weeklies at 7, I'm not guaranteeing that those uh, will print money. However, I am confident in that I understand the mechanics of this. So just please understand that I have never shorted a stock in my life. And so this is all a learning thing. So this is not like, this is me turning off the part of the video where I'm actually speaking about things that I know. This is the part of the video where I am just uh, probably making rookie mistakes and not really understanding how all of this works. So please just keep that in mind. But I am so confident that Tesla is going to put most of the legacy car manufacturers out of business. I really want to do this. I want to short GM and buy more Tesla. But what I'm not really completely understanding, and Grok really tried to explain it to me, if it still reduces my buying power, like I would get cash from this, but if it's still reducing my buying power, how does this help me? Maybe I should just do it and see what happens. Oh God. Same. Couldn't convince my father on stretch or strife, yet he owns strategy. Well, I mean, what was he gonna have to sell to buy the STRC? I mean, I wouldn't. Me personally, not yet. I wouldn't reduce my strategy position. But you mean just like cash? Tesla 116, 360, 390 call doing well so far. Is that a call debit? Hmm. Is GM up a little bit today too? I would hate to buy more Tesla on its way up, but I guess everything is up. Yeah, Tesla's up more. So I guess yesterday would have been the day to do it. If I had shorted GM yesterday, like I was thinking about, it would only be up 2%. And then if I bought Tesla with it, the Tesla would be up 4%. And I would have made more on the Tesla than I lost on the GM position. But paying the fees, I don't know. Plus GM, I think pays a dividend. So if I short it, I think I have to pay that as well. Yeah, so the 0.89% dividend plus the whatever it costs to borrow. Yeah, I'm just not sure what to make of this. Let's see Lucid. That one's probably going out of business. Lucid Group. Oh, see, there's no discount here. Hard to borrow. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. What were the other ones? I think there was like um, lowering interest rates might hurt the bank stocks. Who would that be? Was like is Bank of America? Bank of BOA? BAC. That's pretty good too. Pretty good ratio here. Um, Brainstorming with Grok, I think it said if energy prices come down, that's going to be bad for oil. So like Exxon Mobil. What would that cost me? Ooh, that's 10 to 1. What's that in percentage? So 1684 divided by 11227. Oh, that's 15% still. Why did it seem like it was more than 15%? So I guess that's just basically standard on these taste trade accounts. If it's not hard to borrow, they're going to give me a 15%. But they're only going to charge me 15% of the cost basis. Hmm. All right. I don't really have the balls to do it yet. I'm still a little nervous. All right. But I got off track. Should I peel off some more of my Tesla position and buy more strategy and take advantage of this little divergence? I can take about a 50% profit on this position. Got $4 grand to play with. And if I switch that over into, let's see, March 9/10s, that gives me, I could pick up approximately 8 of those. Yeah, they filled. Hilarious. I have 39 bucks. All right. So remaining Tesla positions, 100 shares, 2 poor men's covered calls, and a handful of long calls that are basically at break even. A little bit of profit here on this one. I think that's the only account that I have Tesla. So won't be any other opportunities for me to actually take any profits. Yeah, not ready to roll. Let's see, I've got the 345. I could close these early, but if I just hang on to them, I can collect another 50 bucks. So one trading day, if I prorate out, 50 bucks times 5 trading days, that would be 250 for the week. It's not terrible. So a lot of times I like to close these, but I I don't want to roll these down. That's a little bit too aggressive, I think. So I think I'll just wait. Yeah. I think that's all the trades for the day. We'll check chats and then we'll call it a day. He has shitty dividend stocks. Shorting for the first time increases your liability infinitely. Oh my god. So that is just throwing my advice right back in my face. Yeah. So if I apply that logic, if I don't short anything, then I can't get wrecked by it. But if I do short something, I've increased my chances of getting wrecked by infinity. So, yeah, you're right. I should be very careful. Let's see. Howard says sold the stretch October 100s, boosted return by 0.3% for 60 days. Not a lot, but just getting feet wet. Okay, let's check this out. October's makes sense. 36 days. You sold the 100s, which, yeah, I mean, that should be the upper bounds, right? Oh, there is a market here now. So there's a few bids. Were those not here last time or did I miss them? So yeah, you should be able to get a fill somewhere between 10 and 25. Oh, so you sold them. So actually that's 36 days. You don't even have to wait 60 for that. Oops. Yeah, I mean it's maximizing the return. Now, the only thing that scares me a little bit is a lot of these dividend stocks have an exercise risk near the ex dividend date. So sometimes, even if it doesn't really make sense to exercise that option and call away your shares, right? Like calling away someone's shares at 100, if the price is 100, it's just kind of like break even, it's meaningless. But if they can snatch your shares right before ex dividend date and then they get the dividend, you kind of have to add 1% to the price. So if the price is exactly 100 at ex dividend, they would probably exercise that option, snatch your shares. They break even on the shares, but then they get paid the dividend and you wouldn't. But as long as the price is under $99, that wouldn't even be enough to do it. So just keep in mind with any dividend stock, there's a little bit of extra exercise risk the day or two before the dividend ex dividend date. But yeah, I mean it's every little bit that you can squeeze out of the market is a good thing. So I hope that one works out. All right, appreciate everybody tuning in, and